Whoa. Yo, what is up? I feel like I'm in a
Boom.
movie, man. John, you said it, man.
I was ready to grab my popcorn. Get ready. We're ready to rock and roll, man.
Yo, what that was like some Star Wars type stuff, man. I don't know, but listen, we're trying all different kind of things here at the Heat Ratio. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Fantasy Firebox, part of the Heat Ratio Sports Network. I'm your host, Tony Jigsaw Cotillo at TCotillo23, joined always by my co-host, Mr. John Coger at PGH John 36. And tonight is all about fantasy. And listen, this has been one of the oddest and weirdest fantasy years to date. And I think, John, we kind of knew this coming in. And tonight, just to give you a preview, we're going to talk about Lee back in San Francisco, Carolina. We're going to talk a little Deshaun Watson, the top ads of the week, sell high, buy low. Will Josh Allen continue his dominance? Little DFS, overvalued, undervalued, as much as we can cram into this next 40 to 45 minutes for our followers. And we already knew, like I said, going into this year with abbreviated offseason and, things that, we were going to see a lot of injuries. I didn't expect this kind of magnitude, which was insane. It feels like every time you turn around, somebody was getting injured, which, is terrible because we don't want to see that at all. But I was a big proponent of the DFS leagues this year. I did stay in a few leagues that were, full point PPR that had the traditional draft. And I'll be honest with you, before we even get into players, I will say that I'm really not digging those leagues anymore right now. I'm more into the DFS. I'm more into, the daily kind of play because of, number one, the injuries just continue to mount. And number two, it's just been a weird year with, when we talk about production from different players and different teams. What do you think? What have you seen so far, John?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing both season long and daily for quite a number of years. I do like daily. I mean, you don't really necessarily get to root for your favorite player all the time like you do when you have it in a seasonal league. If you have Mike Evans on your team, like you're always rooting for Mike Evans. Where when you get to the daily, it's like, well, I ain't picking Mike Evans this week. He's going to stink. So, but yeah, this year has been, I mean, the number of injuries, and not even outside of fantasy, Bosa going down in San Fran is huge. I mean, he's a defensive player of the year candidate, no doubt. I mean,
Yep.
he changes that defense. So, I mean, there is fantasy impact. I mean, how good is San Fran's D going to be, against, the remainder of the year with Bosa out? And who else did they lose? They lost another
Well, they
guy.
still don't have Richard Sherman, right? They still don't have Richard Sherman. On the offensive side of the ball, they lose Jimmy Garoppolo, right? They lose Tevin Coleman. They lose Raheem Mostert. They're losing guys left and right. George Kittle in week one. And speaking of defense, now our boy Trevor checks in. What's up, Trevor? How you doing, buddy? What's a good defense to pick up? I got the Bears D versus the Falcons. So Trevor, are you talking? Do you have options available to you? Like you gotta let me know who's your top three that's available. On the waiver wire this week. I mean, I'll tell you what intrigues me. A lot of people may not think because Cleveland is playing better. But the Washington football team, at Cleveland could be a decent play, in the sense that, Jack Del Rio is a really good defensive coordinator. He could have something up his sleeve out there, rattle Baker Mayfield a little bit and force him into a couple erratic throws that give some picks. I don't know. What do you think, John? You got anybody that sticks out to you right now that you think may be available for the defensive side of the ball?
I mean, I was big when I'm in the drafts. I'm looking at, I'm not taking a defense high, and I'm looking at the matchups in the first 3 weeks. So I think I drafted the Colts defense in 3 or 4 leagues, knowing that I'm going to mix and match based on matchups. I mean, the defense of all things. Every week I look who's playing the Jets and who's playing the Redskins. Those are my two things.
So Trevor checks in. He says he has the Giants. Chargers are available, and he put a claim in for the Bucks, but got no cigar.
Chargers right now. Pick it up. Done.
Yeah. So
They're going against Carolina. Teddy Bridgewater, no McCaffrey. No, you go with the Chargers
I like
and
that.
don't think twice.
No, I like that. I like that. But yeah, John, what were you saying about? Because I kind of agree. My last two picks of every draft are always a kicker and a defense because I streamline them for the first 3 weeks anyway.
Yeah, I will take a defense. Or this is the first year I did take a kicker earlier than the last two rounds. I was sitting there. I dig deep. So I have a slew of sleepers. I'm just saying, I have 10 guys that I'm looking at that I would like as my last running back spot or my last receiver spot. So I'm sitting there. I don't need to take a flyer on either of those guys now. I got Will Lutz in 2 leagues and I think Justin Tucker in another league. So while I'm not a proponent of drafting kickers early by any means, but I do my research. So I know what late round guys I want to get, free agent guys that I think could have breakout years. I don't need to reach. If I can get a 2-3 point difference on the competition with one of them top kickers, for me and the way I draft, it's worth it.
I like that. But I'm not starting the show talking kickers and defenses. Trevor got us down the wrong road here. I love you, Trev, but we're right away with everything going on. Now you got us talking defenses. Like, listen, this is what I want to know. I want to know one thing. If I am a Christian McCaffrey owner, number one, I am sadly disappointed, right? Because say what you want about a 2, 3, 4 week injury. The high ankle sprain is one of the most dreaded injuries in sports. You might as well just break your ankle, so to speak, because it's probably easier to come back from a broken ankle than a high ankle sprain. But that leads to some Mike Davis question.
That was Barkley last year, right?
Right, exactly. And what happened to Saquon? Right, he was not productive at all last year. It took him a while to come back. It's a very painful injury, especially for a running back. So the question is, John, Mike Davis, and we've seen Mike Davis, right? We've seen him in San Francisco, Chicago, Seattle. He's had a cup of coffee everywhere, right? Now he's in Carolina. So we still have the running back fantasy whisperer out there in Norv Turner, right? Calling those plays, right? So I think Norv is still out there, correct? So, and I know Matt Rule came in. I'm not sure if he brought his own guy or not. So I'm not up on that perspective. Check that out. I think it's still Norv, but I may be wrong. But either way, when we look at Mike Davis, now this happens a lot. Your number one guy, and we know, listen, the offense revolves around Christian McCaffrey 100%. We already know that. This isn't Teddy Bridgewater's show. This is Christian McCaffrey's show. Will Mike Davis be able to be productive? Will they consider that style of offense around Mike Davis just for the sheer fact that he will get the volume is what I'm thinking. What do you think, John?
Yeah. He's not going to get 95% of the volume like McCaffrey gets. All right. So let's temper ourselves right there. But yes, I see him getting 75+% of the workload. And he's always been a decent back. I mean, not anyone that's going to over impress you. But I mean, you look even last week, I mean, he had 8 catches, on 8 targets.
Yes.
So, I mean, he could still catch the ball out of the backfield. I mean, back in 2018, he had 112 carries for like 500 some and change yards, 4 touchdowns. But he also caught 34 balls and caught a touchdown. So he's really, I'm not saying he is McCaffrey by any means, but I don't think they're going to change the game plan all that much. And if you get 75% of McCaffrey out of Mike Davis, you're in pretty good shape. And I will say, not a public service announcement by any means, but I'm loving this IR list. Dude, this IR list, the fact that you could come back, not that all of these dudes are getting hurt, don't get me wrong.
Right,
The fact that they put them on the IR list when they know it's going to be a 3-week injury, instead of toying around for a week and a half, well, we're not counting anything out. And these guys are lingering, and you don't know if he's coming back, not coming back, what it is. Dude, this IR list is so good for fantasy, just the mere fact, like Lev Bell, you don't know, but put him on IR. If you know he's going to be out 3 weeks, just put him on IR. And if they don't put him on IR, you have a good idea that it's a very short-term thing.
Yeah, I do. I'm with you. I really, really, really like the IR stint the way they're doing it right now. I do. And again, he is not in Carolina anymore, North Turner, but
Well,
he is the offensive whisperer when it comes to running backs, bro. He
yeah.
definitely is when it comes to fantasy. He is. No,
So
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was going to
No,
touch on Mike Davis, and
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say to you, just looking at his mo, in games where he has been able to start, in games where he has been able to get the lion's share of the carries. I mean, listen, I'm looking at 2018, which is a good sample size, and you're talking about he in 21 attempts. 4.8 yards per rush, 12 attempts, 5.7, 15 attempts, 4.1, 11 attempts, 5.3. Each time he had double digit carries, he was very, very productive. And in those fantasy games with a full point PPR system, you're talking 28, 15, 17, 18, 16. He's been productive. So, he has shown that, like you said, don't expect the world out here, but we're talking about a 27-year-old running back too, John. We're not talking about a 30-year-old or a 32. This is Devonta Freeman coming in with an injury history. This is Mike Davis at 27 years old, who's been in the league for 5 years, right? But so it's not like he's got a ton of worn tread on his tires here. He's got a lot of tread left, and they could definitely use him to their basically not completely change the offense, or not. I said not completely stay the same. They'll change it a little bit, but I think you're right. I think it could be very productive.
Dude, fantasy is about opportunity and volume. Period. That's the name of the game in fantasy. I'm not saying to run out and get Peyton Barber, who had 20 yards on 18 carries or something like that. But the point is, if they're feeding you the rock, if you're getting consistently 15 yards or 15 carries a game, I mean, that is gold. And if you're also on top of that getting targeted in the passing game 4 or 5 times a game, dude, that's money. And that should be Mike Davis. When I look at wide receivers and their production, I don't look at the fantasy points. Calvin Ridley got 4 touchdowns. Now, granted, he's blowing it up, but the 4 touchdowns are skewing how good he's doing because he's leading the league in touchdowns. So I'm just saying, no, but the
I know.
I look at targets. You know what I want to see? How much is this guy getting targeted? If is the quarterback looking at him? I don't care if you have 4 catches. If you had 10 targets, I'm sticking with you. The quarterback's looking for you. This is the guy that I want, not the guy that's getting 5 out of 6 targets consistently, because then it's going to be 3 out of 6 and it's a crap day,
Oh, absolutely. And checking in, Andre says he agrees. What's up, Andre? A-bomb. Sometimes I think Vegas puts eye on everyone's Facebook feed to see how the public reacts. Isn't that the truth? Andrew Bailey, what's up, my man? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you checking in. Andre, listen, he sees it. The truth. Got the Paul Pierce Kansas jersey going tonight. Repping the KU. That's okay. The Roy Williams. And no, I'm not a Bill Self. I'm looking at the Roy Williams teams of the Kansas Jayhawks, because that's what I'm all about. But John, another running back situation. Let's go right to San Francisco. Let's stay out west. Let's go to San Francisco. And again, no Tevin Coleman, no Raheem Mostert, and my boy Jerick McKinnon. Right? I know you're rolling. No, my boy Jerick McKinnon is being productive, John, and now his spot. Right? You have 2 guys. You have McKinnon and you have Jeff Wilson. Do I think McKinnon's going to get 30 touches? No. But I'll tell you what, he's going to get 20, and he's going to be very productive. So, is that the guy? Is that the guy that you target? Or are you thinking Jeff Wilson will be the guy in San Francisco, and they'll keep McKinnon relegated to third down duties? What do you think is going to go on out there?
McKinnon's going to get probably 60, 65, 70 maybe percent, but don't underestimate their usage of Jeff Wilson. I mean, last year or the first couple of weeks, he not only was he a touchdown vulture, McKinnon wasn't there. Like, some guys weren't ready. They had a 3-headed monster, and he was involved. So they do have some trust in him. They've used him in the past. It just happens that he's like 4th or 5th on the depth chart, So he's definitely going to get some work. I mean, I wouldn't mind a Jeff Wilson in daily, not a McKinnon in daily, because I'm not sold on really his volume. What you outlined there was pretty accurate. I can see, I see maybe 13, 14. I mean, you also have to look at the matchup. You know what I mean?
This is true. This is true.
This guy's coming off what, 2 season-ending injuries.
Yes.
I look, if the 49ers can get up in the game and they have a 2-touchdown lead in the second half, you're going to see a lot more of Jeff Wilson than you are McKinnon. I'll say that right now. So, but I do see McKinnon for about 13, 14 carries. I think he'll make good with them. He'll probably get 4-ish catches, maybe 3, maybe 5. I don't see him going crazy in the catch department, but who knows? I mean, yeah, he's a good 1 week play, but it's more because it's the Giants. Okay, if he had a tougher matchup, I would not be on McKinnon.
That's a good point. I mean, he has scored in both games, and obviously, you know how I feel about touchdowns. So, and he did have a big 31-yard run at the end of the game last week. So, those 3 for 77 is kind of misconstrued there, because 31 of that 77 was on one run. He did only receive 1 target in that game. And obviously, listen, Mullins is the quarterback now, not Jimmy Garoppolo. We really don't know what to expect. So, I mean, as I like Jerick McKinnon, I like him a lot, but at the same time, I'm really not ready. I'm really not ready to say, you know what, I'm all in on Jerick McKinnon. Look at Andrew. Andrew hates. Look at Andrew hates Paul Pierce. Look at him. Pierce is still a weasel. Celtic always. One of the best shots around, though, Andrew. I hear you, but got to give respect. Listen, this is what I love about the Fantasy Firebox. We got our Philly boys still checking in, giving us updates on the Phils, up 3-1. Harper sent a few out the park by Andre. So Andrew is killing. Harper shows up when the season's over. Oh, that's a her piece right there. But nah, I love it, man. I absolutely.
No, I just wanted to add one more tidbit on the what you said about Mullins in and no Garoppolo. If anything, I mean, what is your MO as the 49ers going up against the Giants? Your MO is don't put the ball in Mullins' hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You want to run the ball. And if your game plan is to run the ball, are you really going to feed it to McKinnon and not use Jeff Wilson? I'm just saying, like, I think I like McKinnon to put up more stats, but Wilson is definitely the daily play.
So I thought this week was very, very watered down when we talked about picking people up. Obviously the top ad of the week we knew was Mike Davis, but everybody's clamoring over Devonta Freeman, which I think you should be very, very careful with that situation right now. In my opinion, because let's remember something. Wayne Goldman came in and played very well last year, when he had the opportunity. So, and you have Deion Lewis out there too. So I really don't know how much you're going to use Devonta Freeman. We don't know. But at the end of the day, John, top ads of the week, was there anybody besides Mike Davis and Jerick McKinnon that kind of stood out to you? I mean, are you jumping on a Justin Herbert wagon? I mean, talk about an unbelievable. How about that Tyrod Taylor issue, man? Are you kidding me? Is that doctor fired or what? Like that can't happen, dude. That just can't happen. So, yeah, I mean, are you on a Justin Herbert wagon? Is that somebody you're picking up this week?
No, I will never pick up a rookie quarterback for fantasy.
Really?
I haven't done it in the past 25 years, so I don't know when I will actually do it. Just bottom line, there ain't a track record, and I ain't putting my fantasy team on a track record. I would rather play a Gardner Minshew in a matchup, or you know what I mean, or pick up another guy, throw in a Phillip Rivers there. I mean, I don't know, throw in a Joe Burrow. Oh, he's a rookie, I guess. I would semi-trust him just only after watching him for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Seeing the decisions he makes. I would never roll in, you know what I mean, right off the giddy up. I mean, Herbert looked good. I'm sorry. Every time I see his name, I just want to see A Bear. Because
Bobby A Bear.
Yes, exactly. Dude, put him in a Saints uniform. Like
Oh
I'm
my
just
God.
every time I see it, like I have to check myself to say Herbert because I always want to say a Bear. But look, he looked good, but I mean I don't trust him with the running a potent passing offense down in LA.
So when you look at the quarterback position now, you mentioned Joe Burrow, and I'm actually a big Joe Burrow fan. Really, it really is because in the same context that we talk about rookie quarterbacks, is I say this kid isn't a rookie. This kid has showed me in the first couple weeks he is legit, and he has a lot of weapons in Cincinnati. And I'll tell you what, I'm starting him this week against the Eagles. Okay, say what you want, but I am starting Joe Burrow against the Eagles. I think that he will be uber productive against that team. I do. I really, really like his poise in the pocket. Listen, Zach Taylor. I said this. I've said this before. I said it on the Daily Ticket. I mentioned that Zach Taylor comes from the offensive play calling school of Sean McVay. So he is going to do a lot of different formations to confuse the Eagles defense, who couldn't stop us last week, John. Okay, honestly, and I'm not ready to put all my faith in this defense to turn it around. I'm not. I think Burrow is going to be able to pick them apart a little bit. Is he going to throw for 400 yards? No. But if I can get 250 and 2 touchdowns out of Joe Burrow and 35 yards rushing, I'm in. I'm in. Sign me up, because I think that's what he's going to do against the Eagles. I think he's going to be that good. So I'm in on Joe Burrow. Now, let me ask you about Ryan Tannehill before we go. Ryan Tannehill had a shockingly productive week. I don't think anybody could have envisioned that it was going to be the Ryan Tannehill show. We all thought it was going to be hand to rock Derrick Henry and then, add the passing game in here and there. And they sprinkled the passing game all over the field, and they went strictly to the receivers, and Janu Smith had a great game. Right. So, Andre said he don't like my uber productive, no, unless they have some paid partnership. I like that, Andre. We're going to work on that. If you get us an Uber sponsorship, 50-50, bro, right off the bat, we are in. Let me tell you, we are in. And then we can set it up that all Uber drivers must play the heat ratio on the stream, on the daily, whenever they're picking somebody up. That's what I'm talking about. Look at Andrew real fast with little jokes. He's my fantasy pickup for the week is Shakira. Ooh, okay. I'm not going to get in trouble here, but I got you, Andrew. I see what you're talking about. Taylor's lawyers are already putting together a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit where I'm lost. Tyrod Taylor. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we just talked about Tyrod. Exactly. Yeah, Tyrod Taylor's getting paid, man. You ain't lying right there. 100%. 100%. See, now we talk 50-50, Andre. Let's go. Let's get that rolling, man. So quarterbacks, John, you know what the hell with Ryan Tannehill? Nobody's starting him anyway. Let's talk about Deshaun Watson.
Well, hold on, but I know just my 2 cents on Tannehill. This is what he did. This is what he does. He did it last year. Look, they like to run the rock, but he's not a throwing, like he's not passing the ball a lot. You know what I mean? Like the dude only had 24 attempts. Yeah, he had the 4 touchdowns. You know what I mean? He'll have those games, but he's never going to be thrown for over 250. Like he may throw 2 touchdowns, he may throw 1 touchdown, he might throw 4, but he ain't getting you more than 250 passing, and the rushing yards and stuff isn't there. You don't trust him.
Now, what about Deshaun? We have to start talking about Deshaun Watson, because he misses his man. We knew this was going to happen. He misses his man D-Hop. Okay, we're talking about 2 games where he was under 70%, 62% in game 1, 69% in game 2. He hasn't hit the 300-yard mark yet. He is only rushed for a total of 44 yards in 2 games, which is not the Deshaun Watson we know. Is this what we're looking at right now, or is it we have to give him time to develop a rapport with his new receiving core?
No, I mean, we talk buy and sell a little bit later, but no, Deshaun Watson, I'm waiting 1 more week and I am buying, big time. Look, Deshaun Watson's going to be just fine. He hasn't been terrible. I mean, what did you just say you wanted out of Joe Burrow? You said you wanted 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. He didn't quite get you to 2 touchdowns, but he got you 253 and 278. And you know that that's down, okay? And he still threw a touchdown in each. All right, no, he hasn't run the ball, but he's had 5 and 6 carries each time. He ran the ball in on one of them. So, look, he's not playing up to his standards. He played against the Super Bowl champs and against the Baltimore Ravens. And this week he has the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I will tell you, he is not – did anyone really think that he would have good games against maybe the Chiefs if it gets to be a shootout like it was? But, I mean, really against the Ravens and potentially against the Steelers. Look, I'm not banking on a good game. But then we go Minnesota, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Green Bay, Jacksonville. I mean, this guy's going to play. Look, Hopkins was good, but he can make the right decisions. He can scramble out of the pocket. His lack of success is more matchup than anything. And no preseason.
Yeah, but I agree. I agree, but there was a lot of people that didn't have a preseason either. So I'm not giving Carson Wentz that excuse, so I'm not giving it to Deshaun Watson either. So let's stick on the quarterback trail. And one more, which I'm patting myself on the back for here, is my man in Buffalo, Mr. Josh Allen. John, I know you shake your head. 729 yards in 2 games. The man is on a mission. Can he continue his dominance in Buffalo?
Not to this level. You know, I just said buy on Deshaun. I will not say to sell Josh Allen, but I think if you expect over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns every week, you are absolutely crazy. He has been an accurate passer through 2 games against the Jets and the Dolphins. Okay, let's get this straight. The Bills' MO is to play defense and run the rock. Okay, and believe me, Allen will get his rushing yards. I mean, I'm talking 60 rushing yards a week is kind of what is a given. To me, you can bank 60 rushing yards and a touchdown every week from Josh Allen. You can bank about 200 to 250 and another touchdown or 2. But I'll tell you what, that's good. That's top 10 quarterback right there in fantasy. So that's what I expect him to be. He's playing a little above his head, and it was very poor matchup. So I'm not selling on the potential that he could continue this, but I don't believe he's an accurate enough passer to be able to continue the passing game that they've been doing. And I don't think the game plan is for him to do that.
No, I like that. I still think he's going to be very, very productive. I think that you're going to see him do a lot. Listen, this isn't going to be a Lamar Jackson kind of year, obviously, but this is going to be a year where, you know, he sets the bar pretty high for himself. And even though I did watch that game and he wasn't crazy accurate, but at the same time, he's throwing so many balls that it doesn't really matter. And I understand the competition he faced. I get it. But I think that McDermott will be able to reel that in. And with his legs, he's going to give you that extra element. Andre checks in Watson will pay dividends the next couple games. He agrees with you. Has a fire in him to compete. The guy's a winner. Nick's checking in top 3 quarterbacks. So I don't know if he's talking about, Nick, tell me, you talking about Deshaun Watson or are we talking about Josh Allen? Right now, Josh Allen is one of the top fantasy quarterbacks. Yep. So definitely Allen feels he could be the king of that division. Brady being out. Oh, listen, 100%, Andre, 100%. I've picked the Bills to be the leaders in the AFC East and go to the AFC Championship game. And John will tell you, listen, I was big, Stephon Diggs. I said, I really think he's going to finish as the top 7 receiver. John told me I was crazy. Michelle told me I was crazy, and I know it's only 2 weeks, but my man's putting up some numbers. Be careful. Nick says Josh. Yeah, top 3 quarterback without a doubt, and McDermott has him balling out there 100%. So let me ask you this, John. We talked about, you mentioned the sell high, buy low. You mentioned I'm not selling on Josh Allen. You mentioned about buy low on Deshaun Watson. Let's look at the running back position, and let's look at some guys who may not be having the kind of year we predicted. One in general. Let's start with Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley, is he a buy low candidate right now, or do you think what we're seeing from Todd Gurley is what to expect this year in Atlanta?
That's a tough one. Atlanta's been passing a ball like crazy.
Yes.
So, it's a tough call. I was not that high on Gurley in the first place. But at the same time, week one, he ended up with the touchdown, kind of saved the day. I mean, he's getting the carries. I mean, you could give him that for now. He hasn't done much with the carries.
No.
I'm just surprised that he's not been used more in the passing game. I mean, they're passing so much. I mean, they're on pace probably to have 3 1,000-yard receivers. Okay.
This is the, I said this today, on one of my radio hits, that we are literally looking at, in my opinion, another kind of greatest show on turf, except for the running back. When you had Oz Hakeem and Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, I mean, you could start any one of those 3 receivers, and they were going to give you production week in and week out. And that's what we're seeing right now from Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, and Russell Gage. And Julio is even playing hurt. He's not even playing at 100%. And let's remember the conversation, John. Can Ridley and Jones beat Chris Carter and Randy Moss? You thought I was nuts again. And I listen, I'm not saying they're Randy Moss and Chris Carter. What I'm saying is these guys are going to be unbelievable when we talk about fantasy production week in and week out, because Matt Ryan is just going to throw the ball constantly. He's just going to throw. Listen, Matt Ryan can't win football games, but he can win your fantasy matchups. I'll tell you that. That's one thing he does, and he'll continue to do. Andre checking in about Gurley, says Gurley isn't going to be too productive, too much firepower on the outside for the running back to get the rock as much as they like. I like that. I do. I like that. I mean, you're trying to feed a bunch of mouths out there on guys that want the ball, and Matt Ryan doesn't like to hand the ball off. Matt Ryan likes to throw the ball. So even when Devonta Freeman was in the fold, he was very, very productive because he liked to catch the ball. So, I think Gurley is what he is. I mean, he only averaged 2.9 yards per carry last week. 21 for 61 is not very good. Not very good, especially in a game where you score 43 points. You would think listen, if you have 2,000-yard receivers or 2 100-yard receivers on the outside, you would think that something would be opening up for Todd Gurley, but nothing is opening up for Todd Gurley. So he's a guy that, for me, I think he is who he is. I really don't think that he's a guy that you're going to get much more out of, in my opinion. Let me ask you, quarterback, John. Do you sell high on Aaron Rodgers? Are you buying the Aaron Rodgers stock right now? Is Aaron Rodgers back, or are we seeing a mirage? Because I think you said it best when we were talking about, we've seen this last year too. So is he a sell high candidate?
I'm definitely listening for offers. I mean, it's... Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be a sell high. I mean, I don't know who's really going to buy Rodgers. I mean, he has name value out there. So if you have like a really not, let's say, well-versed, fantasy guy, and just, Aaron Rodgers. I would sell. If somebody asked me, would you trade Aaron Rodgers? My answer is yes, blatantly, quickly. What do you want to give me? You know what I mean? Aaron Rodgers is a guy. That's what he is in his career, in this offense, in this situation. He's a guy. I'm not saying that he's a bottom 10 guy, but he sits in there like, okay, go ahead. I'll trade you Rodgers. I'll pick up Stafford. I still have belief in Stafford. Golladay will be back. You know what I mean? I'll take a Roethlisberger. I'll take, there's a bunch of guys that are in that range. Rodgers is not top 5. He may be playing top 5. He may have top 5 stats now. He is not going to be top 5 fantasy quarterback. Those guys are kind of set in stone. He's in that pack of the next 10 to 12.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm not going to disagree with you, but I feel like I'm seeing something that is different from Aaron this year. A different motivation, maybe, right?
No, Mike McCarthy.
No Mike McCarthy, and you draft a second round pick or a first round pick at number 25, in love to come in and, kind of look over your back a little bit. Not say it bothers them, but maybe gives them a little extra motivation. Andre checking in and saying, I love Adams, but let's face it, he doesn't adjust his game like the greats. This guy's going to be non-productive and average at best to win you games. I don't know, Andre. I think you're being a little hard on Mr. Discount Double Check, dude. I do. I think I really listen. I like the Magic Man. I do. I think he makes throws that we would all dream about making, and I think that you look at him, and he is somebody who makes stuff happen. Look, Andre, check John. I guarantee you, Aaron doesn't have a Packers. I guarantee you, Aaron doesn't have a Packers clock. I guarantee he doesn't have a Packers clock in its office. I love it. Andre loves that Steelers clock, man.
Dude,
I love it.
Let alone a clock would be easier to find. This is not a clock. This is just a wood.
It looks like a giant bottle cap. It looks like a giant Steelers bottle cap. Well, what the hell is going on?
Iron City needs to start making new bottle caps, just a Steelers logo, man.
There you go. I like it. But I think you're being a little too hard on Aaron. I think Aaron is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play this game, in my opinion. I'm not.
Look,
he's a Hall of Famer, man.
I don't disagree with you, but I mean, for the most part, the last time he was like a Hall of Fame quarterback was back in 2016.
I get it.
Otherwise, he's a 4,300-yard passer, and he's going to throw less than 30 touchdowns. That's what he is now. That's what the game scheme is. Dude, look at what Aaron Jones did. That's exactly why Aaron Rodgers will not be the fantasy savior. That's why I'm selling. Because, yes, Aaron Rodgers, he is fully capable, and he will have some games. But Aaron Jones, when he takes over a game, it makes Aaron Rodgers,
love me some
be irrelevant.
I love AJ. I do. And let me ask you something. Let's stick to, before we move to receivers, let me ask you one running back. Buy low. Austin Eckler. Am I buying low on Austin Eckler? Because listen, this has become the Joshua Kelly show, man. It's crazy. 23 carries last week again. I don't understand what is going on. I don't know. Did Austin Eckler do something that we don't know about? They just paid him all this money. He's shown last year that when Melvin Gordon was holding out, that he was very, very capable of commanding the rock and running the show. And now all of a sudden you bring the rookie that none of us foreseen to be able to take over, and he's getting the lion's share of the carries, man. So do you sell Austin Eckler? And if somebody's selling him, do you buy low on him? Do you go in on Eckler? Or are you just kind of like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave him be.
If someone wants to sell him, I'll take him. I'm not giving him Eckler draft value money. You know what I mean? Like Eckler was a late first, early second round pick. He wasn't falling to the late second. He was in that upper echelon. The bottom line is, combined. Week 1 and week 2, Eckler and Kelly have a combined 35 carries each. So the workload split there, okay? My bigger issue is just the Chargers offense with Tyrod Taylor back there and, or Justin Herbert.
Because I don't think Tyrod Taylor's going to be playing anytime soon.
Well, right. But you look, you mentioned Eckler. So he had the 35 carries. He has 5 catches. That's 20 touches a game. I mentioned opportunity when we opened up. So this is a running back that's getting 20 touches a game. Yes, I'm very interested. The only knock on him, if he had a touchdown each week, a rushing and a receiving, no, it's a non-issue. You know what I mean? So
no, you're right about
that. Eckler, but I will tell you, Josh Kelly, he does not look like the Justin Jackson.
No, he doesn't.
It was Justin Jackson. He's a plotter. He comes in, he eats away a little, 40%, 40% of the carries. Eckler's still getting his work on. Joshua Kelly, you just watch him run the ball. Like sometimes there's things you just got to watch an actual game. Like you can look at stats. Stats mean a whole heck of a lot. But at the same time, you watch him run and you watch Justin Jackson run, and that same offense, it's completely different. Joshua Kelly, on the right team or right situation, he could be a bell cow running back.
You know what? I agree with you 100%. Like if I'm an NFL team and, I'm looking around for a running back, I'm looking at Josh Kelly to see if he's available. Not saying he will be, but I'm 100% looking for Joshua Kelly without a doubt. So, yeah, listen, I'll tell you, man, for me, it just seems very odd. This is what sucks with fantasy. You plan, you analyze, and this year you did everything you could because we weren't allowed to watch practices. There wasn't no highlights. You just had to go. Who knows? Joshua Kelly could have been setting the world on fire in training camp, in the abbreviated training camp that they actually had. I have no idea, but I'll tell you what, he must have been doing something to get all the love. And when we talk about, I'm just going to keep saying San Diego. I'm not saying LA. I just like saying San Diego. So screw it. I'm going to say San Diego. Mike dropping the heat. What's up, Mike? As always, checking in. Look at Jenna's checking in. Jenna lost Joey Bosa. I am so sorry, Jenna. Yeah, Jenna, John, you weren't on. Jenna checked in with me when I went live on Sunday morning. John was coaching at that time, so he couldn't join us. So we were going back and forth about Jimmy Garoppolo. She said Jimmy was going to throw 3 touchdowns. He threw 2, but he did get hurt, so I had to give Jenna the edge a little bit. But Jenna, she needed Josh Jacobs to produce, and she lost in her matchup by Jenna. What was it, 0.20 or 0.02, which is really, really tough. But Jenna's a Niners fan. She loves the Niners, and she's got a 31-13 score. I like it. Look, yeah, 0.02. 0.02. Yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible.
0.02, is that passing yards? It would have to be passing yards.
No, 0.02. If you take tenths of a point, right? From
that would be 0.2.
Oh yeah, yeah. She's
so 0.02 gotta be 2 passing yards.
Yes, passing yards. Yep. She said it. Yep. Yes, passing yards. Right. Yep. Yeah, you're hit. That's our fantasy guy right there. That's John. And real fast, Andre, I'm not saying Rodgers isn't a Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm saying as far as fantasy this year, Rodgers will only put up numbers during primetime matchups like playing against Brady Wilson and Jackson. Okay, I'll give you that. Yeah, that's pretty. Listen, that's on point. That's definitely on point. But Jenna is a Niners fan, and Jenna. Let me ask Jenna why we have her on here real fast, because Jenna, we talked earlier about Jeff Wilson and Jerick McKinnon. So we were talking about from a fantasy perspective. Let me ask you about these two guys. Honestly, we kind of feel as though Jeff Wilson's going to get the lion's share of the carries, and McKinnon's still going to be that third down passing catching back. But do you think we're going to see that out there? And Jenna wants to know, will Michael Thomas play this week? Now, here's the thing about Michael Thomas, and I will say this. Listen, it's the same thing with Jimmy G. It's a high ankle sprain. It's the same thing with Christian McCaffrey. High ankle sprains are the worst. Besides a Liz Frank sprain, they're probably the worst injury in sports. Obviously besides ACL, right? We're just talking about the week-to-week injury, because the high ankle sprain hurts so bad. And I'll tell you what, and John, you tell me what you think, but when I'm dealing with a situation like this, even though it's Michael Thomas, if they do say he plays, I am not starting him the first week. I want to see, even if they say he's available, because you don't know. Sean Payton could pull some stuff where he throws him in there for 3 gadget plays, right? He's not even getting the line, but it was odd to see Emmanuel Sanders not even produce, which we don't know if that was on Drew Brees, if that's on Matt, who knows? But if Michael Thomas does play, what I will say, because it is Wednesday, so everything could change now, right? But as of now, he's not playing. But if he does, John, I would not start him this week. What do you think?
No, I got him on one of my teams. One of my leagues, I went backwards. I don't know what spot I was, if it was 7 or 8, and I wasn't crazy about any of the running backs that were there. I was like, there's 8 guys I'd be happy with. And I went with Michael Thomas because this was my last draft out of, many. I say, yeah, I'm going Michael Thomas, you know. But no, I will not be starting him this week.
Yeah, I think you have to be cautious.
Can't trust it, if he gets 50% of the snaps, he's pushing it. You know, he's pushing it. The injury is not going to let him play up to the level. Even if he plays, I don't see him get it. He's not going to play the same number of snaps that he would. The ceiling is so limited on what he could do. No, I would rather start a Darius Slayton or somebody if I had to over a Michael Thomas. I'd rather take a flyer on a Corey Davis if I had to. You know, I would hope I had somebody better, but no, I won't be starting Michael Thomas.
So Jenna checks in, and this is straight from San Francisco, saying she thinks McKinnon will get more work than Jeff Wilson. She's putting a 65-35 on McKinnon. I like that. I do. I like, I mean, that's just around that 60-40 split. I kind of like that. I mean, I think they don't want to push Jerick McKinnon that much. If he was 100% healthy and didn't have the 2 bad years from injury that he had, I would say, you know what? No doubt about it. It's 80-20, but because I really think they would want to push him. But I think you're right. I like the 65-35. It'll definitely be around that number, 100%. So John, go ahead.
It's going to be game flow too.
Like,
yes, that is the right split. Yes, 65-35 is the right split. If they get up, it's going to be different. If they get down, it could be an 80-20 split.
No, you're absolutely right. You are. You're 100% correct. Let's talk about DFS. Let's talk about overvalued, undervalued. Now, you know, we talk about guys that I don't know about you, but let's just go generic first. Let's talk about in general. Or hold on. Let's Jenna checking in. My last question is Davante Adams is on my team. Do you think he will play? Man, I'll tell you. You know, Davante Adams is an interesting one because he's a guy that doesn't miss many games. Okay. Now, one thing I will say is when he did, he was missing a lot of games. It was a turf toe injury. The turf toe injury is tough, right? It really does. It's a tough injury, so you're just not sure of exactly, you know, what he's going to be. But it says he's feeling better. He, you know, and luckily for the Green Bay Packers, they have a Sunday night game, so it gives them that extra day, so to speak, to recover. Okay, so do we think he'll play? Listen. The game, this for me personally, if it's a Sunday night game, I think he would play. I do. I think he'll play. Now, will he be 100%? Not sure. Right? You know, we're talking about a hamstring injury. So when we talk about a hamstring injury, you just never know that. The only question about the hamstring injury is, you know, you're afraid that, you know, if he does push it, does he re-aggravate it and then he goes out and then you're stuck. So you know, it's such a hard call. But I think he will play. Same thing like Michael Thomas. I think I think Adams has more of a chance to play and be more productive. You know, right. Absolutely. So I will say that. But I think both of them are going to be very, very iffy picks this week. If you have both of them on your team, hopefully maybe you have somebody else to consider.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you, I have Adams on a different team, and as of right now, different opinion. I'm starting him. As of now, he's in my lineup. He is out of Michael Thomas is out of my lineup in one. Adams is in my lineup. I set my lineups right off the bat. As soon as things open up, I go in, I set my lineups with my preliminary stuff. It's not to say that I don't go back and change it, but my gut feel is Adams. Right now, Adams is in. A lot of it was precautionary. They had a big lead. He left in the fourth quarter. He wasn't having a really productive day. Tony, you're absolutely right. Hamstrings. They could be nagging. You could aggravate it. I'm not even concerned if he doesn't practice on Thursday. All right. I would almost rather see him not practice on Thursday and rest it up and do a full participation Friday as opposed to a limited, like, I don't know. Right now he's in, but I will say I need to highly scrutinize the Sunday morning news to figure out what his chances look like, because the last thing you want to do is take a goose egg with a guy that they hold out. You know.
Well, I will say this, Jenna. Well, we'll say this. Check back in throughout the week, if we hear anything, we will let you know. But we will be live. At least me, if John can join me, he will. But we'll be live on Sunday. So we will be live Sunday before the 1 o'clock games, and we will update any kind of availability that we know. Even though it is a Sunday night game, listen, Jenny, you can hit me up on Twitter. I'm always available. If I find anything out, I will let you know first. I promise you that. But John, DFS. Let's talk about it. Thanks, Scott. You're absolutely welcome, Jenna, and we appreciate you for checking in as always, and and your follow as well. It's greatly appreciated. When we talk about DFS, what I will say is the way I set my DFS lineup, and I'll tell you, man, I came in fourth this week, 4 out of 20. I was riding first, John. I was riding first, and the 3 guys ahead of me all had Aaron Jones, and all of a sudden he went off. And, I fell right down to fourth, but I'm not mad. But one thing I will tell you is, and you tell me how you set your lineup. So what I always do is I always spend my big money on my 3 spots. I want a big money running back, a big money receiver, and a big money quarterback. That's what I do, and then I'll fill in all the spots. I'm not spending big on a tight end. I'm not spending big on a third receiver. I'm not spending big. That's what I want. I'm not spending big on 2 running backs. I want 1 solid stud at both positions on offense and 1 on the quarterback position. So is that the kind of mindset you have, or do you kind of just, whatever the way it goes, you just total matchups?
No, I mean, everybody has their way of doing things. I would say my lineups usually start with looking at the cheap plays first. Let me get the cheap plays in there, the guys that I know that I want to target. All right. So, who do I have in this week? So actually, I got Josh Kelly in this week as one of my
okay
plays because he's getting the volume. They're going up against Carolina, I believe, which is pretty much the worst run defense in the league. So I'm plugging Josh Kelly in there. All right. Or
that.
maybe another guy. It may have not panned out, but you went Antonio Gibson week 1, and you have to watch in terms of daily what the percentage of plays are going to be too. Because if you're just picking a guy that's canceling out with everybody else, so I usually go and pick out a guy, usually at the running back position, who I think is going to be, who is cheap and can really perform. Then I look at my quarterback with the good matchup and pair him with a receiver, whether it be a wide receiver or a tight end or whatever it may be. It could be Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. Like if I believe that I want to pay up for Lamar Jackson, not that that was the case, but you like Matt Ryan's matchup, so you pair him up with Ridley. And you know how that paid off, through the first couple weeks. So those are usually the 2 things that I do. Then I go and say, all right, what's my other stud running back? What's my stud wide receiver? I plug it, and go from there. So slightly different approach, but I don't know. It's like I like seeing my money savings up front, and then I figure out what I can pay for.
Well, no, I like that because it's almost like it gives you a good idea because, but me doing the opposite, it's always like, all right, what do I have left? Like in baseball, it's always, I know catcher's going to be last, so I don't care. Football for me, tight end's always last, or defense, obviously, whatever's left, I'll just grab. No big deal. You kind of do the opposite, which is different. I'm going to try that and see if that works out for me because we throw a couple lineups in here and there, so I'll sprinkle out, on different tiers.
Well, and for me, I mean, it's always easy to look at the top 7, 8 guys and say, oh, that's my guy. You know what I mean? It's like me, my first thing is I want to go down and find that gem right off the giddy up. Do I like this guy at 5,000 or do I like this guy at 4,800 better? Or do I like this guy at 4,200? You know what I mean? Even at receiver, like I'll usually get my top, like 1 receiver that I want, maybe not my stud, maybe just a good matchup. And Allen Robinson, up against Atlanta this week, where I'm like, you know what? I'm grabbing Allen Robinson right now. He's one of my receivers. Then I may go down and say, all right, I want to see a guy what's under 5,000. Then I start scrolling, and I'm talking DraftKings here. I start scrolling under 5,000 and say, oh, dude, Darius Slayton sitting down here. Not that he is this week. I'm not saying that, but you find a guy that has that good matchup that should have a good game. So, But we get to the same spot. Whether you pick your cheaper guys early or you pick your studs early, it doesn't matter. The point is you got to have that mix.
Yeah, you definitely do. And when we're talking about daily, like this week, I'm looking at lower value guys, especially. I'm curious to see what a guy like Michael Pittman Jr. is going to cost, because you see Paris Campbell go out. They're playing the Jets, which I think is a tremendous matchup. Jack Doyle did not play last week, so Michael Pittman Jr. is going to get a lot of looks this week, and he's probably not very high up on the charts. They're the kind of guys I think you talk. CD Lamb. I know he's going up against Seattle, but I'll tell you what, Seattle's not the team that they used to be, and CD Lamb has outproduced Michael Gallup for the last 2 weeks. So he's another guy I think is being undervalued. Would you agree?
I don't know about undervalued. I'll tell you. Look,
maybe I should say overlooked.
I'm not feeling it. There's too many mouths in Dallas. The only one that I trust is Zeke number 1, Dak number 2, and I'll even go with Cooper because he's getting the looks. And I will tell you, I have Gallup in a couple leagues. Not that I really liked him, but there were a couple leagues where I went heavy running back and just where the draft position was. I was not really chasing that number 1 receiver, but like the one I got like Lockett and Juju. I'm not crazy about either of them. The other one I had like Robert Woods, and I had to reach for Gallup because I actually went 3 running backs in that league. It's just the way that it fell. I was like, there was not value at the time where even though I wanted to draft a receiver, there wasn't value. So I chose to go with the 3rd running back over that receiver because there was a bunch of guys that were like, you know what I mean? You're talking guys that were, 14 through 30. Like, is there really that much difference between those receivers? Like, think about it. So I ended up getting Gallup on a couple teams. Very disappointing. But CD Lamb, like, no, I don't know what that share is between Gallup, CD Lamb, and now Dalton Schultz after Jarwin's injury. Those are the three. Those 3 miles are number 4, 5, and 6 in the pecking order. Because Dak running the ball is a real possibility.
I like that. No, you're right. You're 100% correct. I mean, it is hard to pick out that, any particular guy in Dallas. I went in thinking Michael Gallup was going to be the guy, because he had the biggest yards per catch over Amari Cooper. He averaged the same amount week to week when we're talking about daily fantasy last year. So I thought he was going to come in and kind of overtake that throne, so to speak. But I'll tell you what, one of the more interesting stories that I'm looking at is in your home of Pittsburgh. When we're looking at Deontay Johnson and Juju Smith-Schuster, we're looking at Deontay Johnson with 23 targets, John, and Juju only with 14. Are we kind of seeing a shift where your boy Ben, who is actually throwing the ball very well, who's looking more to Deontay Johnson than he is to Juju Smith-Schuster? Are we seeing a change in Pittsburgh?
I don't know if we're seeing a change necessarily as much as is this very different than the year that Juju was the number 2 to AB?
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
That's what it is. This is Ben will find a receiver. All right. Ben is a good quarterback. Now, does he take too many risks? Does he throw picks? Absolutely. Does he take unnecessary hits? Absolutely. But his extending of the play, and he finds the open guy. It could be James Washington, Chase Claypool on a freaking 80-yard whatever reception, or
Eric
Eric Vance McDonald. He can find the guy. So yes, right now it's impressive for how much he's looking at Deontay, and I think a lot of it is who's the Steelers' number 1 receiver, Juju. So where's the attention going? Juju. So, I mean, look, I think Juju will catch up a little bit. He still hasn't been bad. I mean, the 2 touchdowns saved him. But no, I would give the slight edge to Johnson. If you tell me evenly priced on daily, which they're not, but evenly priced. Who are you taking out of the two? I'm taking Deontay Johnson. And that's actually what I ended up doing with my lineup. They were very close. I went Deontay Johnson.
So let me ask you this. And we had a few minutes left here, and let's stick to the DFS theme. Because I already know you've put in the DFS lineup already for this week. What were a couple guys that kind of stuck out to you based on matchups? We don't even need to talk about money, but based on matchups, when you were setting your DFS your DFS lineup, you were saying specifically that you already know in your mind with matchups, guys that you want to target. Did you go into that database of DraftKings and say, you know what, these are the guys I'm looking for right off the bat? Who are the guys that you were targeting for week 3?
Well, it's kind of crazy, and I'll probably adjust it as we go because I typically don't do my Sunday lineups this early.
Right.
So I threw it together, but very along the same lines, as what I outlined. I said, all right, you know what? Who's my quarterback? Ben Roethlisberger at home. I paired him up with Deontay Johnson. So looking at salary and what was there, I said, you know what? That's what I'm going with. They've been playing well. Second thing, I said, okay, who has the worst run defense in the league? The Chargers. I went Eckler, and I believe I may even go Josh Kelly along with that. But I have a feeling I'm going to shy away from one or the other. I'm not sure which one. Might be Eckler, and I might go with a different horse.
You mean Carolina? You mean Carolina has the worst run defense? That's
yes. I'm sorry. What did I say?
No, that's okay. I'm just clearing it up for the audience.
What did I say?
You said because the Chargers have the worst run defense.
Oh no, I meant sorry. I knew what I was talking about. Yeah, my bad.
All good, man.
But once again, what's one of the worst pass defenses in the league?
Houston Texans.
I'm going Atlanta Falcons too. On top of that, so I'm going with Allen Robinson, and I might even sneak Anthony Miller in there.
Ooh, look at you!
Same thing. I got to figure out which one I'm doing. I don't know if I'm going to keep Eckler or Robinson. I like their matchups, but then I said, you know what? I like the cheaper Josh Kelly and the cheaper Anthony Miller necessarily. If that frees up for some money for me to go for a big dog. I went Chargers D, no McCaffrey. I don't trust Bridgewater and Mike Davis to really pose a threat. Chargers got a good defense. And I went Dalton Schultz at tight end. Darwin's out.
Schultz.
Look, there wasn't much out there.
Real fast, Dalton Schultz. You know what that reminds you of? Roadhouse. The movie Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze. Wasn't his name Dalton in that movie? I think his name was Dalton in that movie. So every time I hear Dalton Schultz, I think of Patrick Swayze and Roadhouse. But go ahead, I'm sorry. But
no, that's right. I wasn't sold on Schultz, but when I was looking at the tight ends that were out there, and there was really nothing. I mean, Kittle's not there. When's Kelsey play? He's a primetime game, so he's not really in the main slates.
Right,
Kittle's
exactly.
Andrews is in the same thing in the main slate, so he's out. So it's like now you're talking Higbee. And I mean, look, I like Higbee. Don't get me wrong.
It's a bad matchup.
I'm not paying $59 for Higbee when I can get a Hayden Hurst for $4,700.
Exactly.
Hunter Henry for $4,800. And I'm like, all right, well, am I doing that with Hunter Henry if they just run the ball against Carolina? And if Atlanta keeps hitting up their 3 receivers like they are, I was like, well, look, maybe I even go a step lower with Dalton Schultz. So, I don't know. It'll change, but that was my initial lineup. I always go in usually multiple times. I'll probably go in on Friday, update it. Probably go in again on Sunday, update it again. And
that's listen, and that's a great thing about fantasy. I do the same thing, and we're going to be here for you on Sunday to go over those lineups. So that's one thing for sure. But John, a great show as always. We go an hour and 5. Went over a lot of different things. And listen, I just so everybody knows, and I know it's Wednesday, but and that's when we record this. We go live, obviously, and then we'll podcast this up. But I'm not a big projection guy. I never have. Like the projections that come out on Wednesday and Thursday to me, there's no point. honestly, because they're going to change so much by the time game time comes. So I like talking about individual matchups. I like talking about, what we can foresee, guys maybe we picked up, guys we're going to sell high and low on. That's the kind of format I wanted this show. I'm not going to sit here and go, okay, John, let's look at, let's look at this matchup. Let's go this week and let's look at Kansas City against Baltimore. Who do you think? Nah, dude, that's boring. I'm not doing that. We have fun doing this show, so I like the format we're doing. And feedback is welcome as always, so let us know. But again, the Fantasy Firebox at Heat Ratio Sports. I am your host, Tony Cotillo at TCotillo23. Always join John Coger, PGH John 36. Give us a follow. Give us a rating. Give us a review. Like we always say, we will be live on all social platforms on Sunday, either 11 or 12. And hit us up with any questions. Listen, throughout the week, just tag Heat Ratio Sports. That's it. Whether I get you on the Gambler, whether I get you on PI, whether I get you through my own personal page, John gets you through his personal page, we will at least give you the scenario we feel is best. And then you can go from there and then let us know how you make out. So everybody, as always, I like to say, stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you on Sunday.